welcome to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. And of course, you're listening at KOWS 92.5 FM, Occidental, California. And if you're listening on the world and wide and wacky web, that'll be at KOWS.FM. F for Frank and M for Matilda. And that's about all the special sometimes it starts, sometimes it never finishes. It's kind of like life, isn't it? You're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. And we're here, of course, every Friday on KOWS.FM from 1 to 3. All right, welcome to the show, everyone, today. Now, I've had a lot of emails and a lot of calls asking me, Dermot, what the heck are you doing? And it pertains to the title of our show today, What Donald Trump Can Teach You About Creating an Amazing Life. Now, it may not be what you think, and then it might be everything you think it might not be. Don't think about that so hard, you might get a headache. All right, our topic for today, what Donald Trump can teach you about creating an amazing life. Now, we're going to be talking about the outside-in dilemma. If we look at the thought, as thought is the source of all experience, and we're looking from an outside-in perspective, we're looking at what Donald Trump, we're looking at what the world is doing, that's stopping us, that's hindering us, that's blocking us, that's not supporting us to create a great life. When the very opposite is true. There's a world, I'm not saying that there's not a world out there. What I'm saying is that thought is 100% an experience of our own thinking in here. So we're going to talk about this outside-in dilemma. We're also going to talk about, hey, what's really blocking you from creating an amazing life? And we'll finish off the show with a thing that I heard for years when I was in a 12-step program. What you resist persists. Now, it sounds like a very simple quote or phrase or statement, but it's actually very, very powerful. So we're gonna sit and we're gonna talk about this. How do we create a great life? You see, here's the thing. We live in a world which is out there, and our thoughts are constantly responding or reacting to what's going on in the outside world. But if just for a moment, take this in, that thought is the source of all our experience. So what does that mean about this outside-in dilemma, where we're looking at the world from the outside and we're saying, hey, the challenge here is that the world is doing this to me and I can't do that. The economy is so bad right now because of what the president is doing, because of what he's doing, because of what the government is doing, that I can't create a business, that I can't make money, that I can't have a good quality of life because there's so many things on the outside that are blocking my inner experience. But if we look at the world as the outside and we look at our experience of the world, where's that coming from? It's coming from the inside. We experience the world through our thinking. But you see, most people have a tendency, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, it's more factual than it is anything, that we tend to look at the world from an outside-in perspective. We tend to look at what he's doing, what she's doing, what they're saying, what countries they're getting all their bombs ready to drop on us, and they're getting ready to do this, and they're getting ready to do that. Now, I'm not saying all of that isn't real, and all of that couldn't happen. What I'm saying is that when we allow those outside experiences, situations, problems, challenges to dictate our inner experience, then we live 100% at the mercy of the world. And as a result, we create stress, we create dis-ease in our bodies. As a result, we create blocks, so-called perceived blocks. I can't do this, but I want to do this, but, well, if I could only do that, but, blah, 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 blah is happening in the outside world. And if we can start to just take in for a moment that the problems of the outside world, they've been happening since time immemorial. Wait a minute. Immemorial. I know there was a few imme in there. I think I just said immemorial, but it's immemorial as opposed to morial. Well, anyway, you get the picture. And these things have been going on since time immemorial. There, I got it. Whew. I'm an Irishman. I am persistent. There's no question about it. Or maybe I'm just a perfectionist. Who knows? Either one of the two will work very nicely. And problems are always happening in the world. That's never going to end. Even when you're enlightened, sitting under a banyan tree in India, in your white garb, eating banana leaves, and talking to God all day long, there's still going to be problems in the world. But see, what the guru, what the yogi, what the enlightened person knows is that everything that's going on in the outside world, in a way, has nothing to do with what's going on in our inside world. Because if we look at thought as the creator, as the created, as that which is creating, then we have to be able to say to ourselves, we must be able to say to ourselves at some point that regardless of what's going on in the world, we don't have to be at the mercy of it. You see, the problem is, and Trump is such a great example of this. All right, so many people love Obama, and he's great, and we feel safe, and the country's doing well, and he's going to make everything better. He's going to make me feel better. He's going to make me feel safe. He's going to make me feel in control. He's going to take care of all my worries so that I don't have to worry about life. And no man can do that. No one man or a million men or women can do that for any person. In the same way that when we're in relationships and we look at our partners as the source of our joy, as the source of our happiness, which we do, when you have the honeymoon phase in the relationship, right? You meet the person and it's like, woohoo! This person is amazing and they've got absolutely nothing wrong with them and they're perfect in every way. Oh my God, did I look out with this one? And then, usually the honeymoon phase is a 2-year thing. And then after that, it's kind of like, I didn't know she had that going on. I didn't know that's what he was thinking about that. And we start to, you hear the whole thing of, well, he's changed. He's not the person he was 2 years ago when I first met him. He's different. Nope. Same guy, the same girl 2 years ago. Only that you had your filters on. You had your little filters that said, this person is great. And this person is creating so much joy and peace and love in my life. And now for some reason, they're creating chaos and misery and challenges and problems. What happened to them? How did they change? Why did they change? And you see, that's an outside-in perspective. That says that the person was the source of your joy, was the source or the cause of your joy. Better word, the cause of your joy or your peace or your whatever it is. And we put that stuff on people all the time. We put that stuff on people, places, and things all the time. And it's very, very hard for anyone to be the source of your joy or your pain for that matter. Well, actually, maybe it's easier for them to be the source of your pain than the source of your joy. And you see, that's an outside-in perspective. What Donald Trump is, I feel fear now that we've got this president in there. He's doing this and he's doing that, and I don't like it. I don't feel safe. There's no amount of what Trump, Obama, or any other president through history could do that's going to take that feeling away. All you got to do, if you've lived a life where you've had at least 3 or 4 presidents, you've had different experiences, you've had different presidents, you've had different governments in power. Have any of them made you happy? Have any of the governments made your life much better? Have any of those governments or presidents or Congress or committees, have any of them made your life more happy? Now, you might feel a little bit safe from an outside-in perspective, saying, "Well, you know, I'd rather have Hillary in there than Trump. He's a loose cannon. Anything could happen." And therein lies why Donald Trump can teach you about creating an amazing life. There it is. Party and parcel and package. There it is. Everyone's waiting. Okay, well, what are you saying, Dermot? What do you mean it is? Here's what it is. Donald Trump is in power. Is the president right now, and the reason he got to be the president was in a very unconventional way. He rewrote the book on how to become a president. He went outside the box, outside the books. And people thought, oh, here's a guy now that can get things done. Here's a guy that can make a better America, right? Here's a guy that can put America first. And people love that. People said, yeah, let's put us first. Let's take care of ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you look at, in a plane, they always say, hey, if we're going to do an emergency landing, parents, mothers, put your mask on first before you help your baby. That is part of it. And the other side of it, of course, is that it works in tandem. You can be putting on your mask as well as putting on the baby's mask. So it works in tandem. But here's the thing. When we give the president that kind of power that says whatever he's doing is either going to make me feel happy, safe, joyful, confident, in control, or if he's doing something that's making me feel like out of control, afraid, fearful, not confident, scared, don't know what's going to happen, out of control. And by the way, that's what a lot of people are feeling with Donald Trump, because he's a loose cannon. You don't know what he's going to do from day to day. And so people ride this wave of emotions solely based on what this man is doing. Now, I'm using Donald Trump, I'm using the president as an example of that, but you could use anything for that. Your job. Oh, well, you know what, Dermot? They keep me down in my job. They don't hire anyone. They don't promote anyone in my job. That's the kind of company I'm working with. And so I just do the base level, whatever I need to do, just the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then get the hell out of there and, party on the weekends. They're keeping the small man down. But that's the outside-in dilemma. That's the outside-in problem. That's the outside-in perspective. That everything that is happening to us from the outside world dictates how we feel inside. Now, I'm not saying that we're not robots. We're not automatons where we're walking around and nothing can harm me. I am a robot. Nobody can make me feel anything I don't want to feel. I'm not saying that. Trust me on that one. You ask my little lady how beautiful it is to live with me every day, you might get a different story. It's not that we don't react to the world, and I certainly don't live in that place where I'm, running around with flowers coming out of my ears every day. I don't live in that space all the time, but I do recognize, I do acknowledge, I do know, not all the time, that from the outside perspective, nothing that the president or anyone else, my company, my boss, my wife, my girlfriend, my husband, my uncle, my family are doing can really, 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 really dictate how I feel. Look at Viktor Frankl, Man's Quest for Meaning. He was in a Nazi concentration camp. And even in those horrific conditions, he was able to find peace. He was able to find beauty. Now, if he can find that, how did he do that? Very simple. He decided that this outside experience that was going on, of his family, of people being put into the gas chambers every day, and he had to move their dead bodies and bury them, that he was not going to allow that to take away the beauty that was inside of him, the joy that he knew was always there. You see, if we live in a thought-created universe, which I believe we do, thoughts are coming and going, just like McDonald's, they're coming and going. And it's not about, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, what you resist persists, but I'll just briefly kind of throw it into the conversation here because it's coming up. We always have a choice. Because in a thought-created universe, you can resist something. And did you ever resist your family when they said, hey, you need to do this? You said, no way, I'm not doing this. What happens? They get more pushy, don't they? They get a little bit more, you need to do this. We're all doing it, so you need to do it. Whereas if you say, yeah, that sounds good. Let me ponder that. Let me think about it. A whole lot less resistance in place. And so it is with this outside-in dilemma that we have as a human race. The thoughts are constantly coming in. Nothing you can do about that. Our experience is 100% created by, through, and in thought. Now, we have a thought comes in, and we can engage with the thought, like McThoughts comes to the window. Hello, my name is Mr. Thought. Would you like to talk and with me today and explore some new ideas? And you can say to the thought, yeah, okay, let's have a chat. And that thought becomes your thinking. And that thinking then becomes a belief, right? A belief is only a thought that you keep thinking, a belief. And then that belief becomes your reality. And that reality then becomes some type of an experience, whether, hey, what he's doing to me out there, I don't feel safe because he's doing that. Or she said this, or they're doing this. It's just like when you go to the movies. You ever go to the movies to a scary movie? And you know that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a movie. But yet you're like, oh, ah! And they are terrible special effects, but you get the idea. You get afraid, right? But you know in your heart and soul that, hey, it's just a movie. And you know it's going to be over in 2 hours. Well, a thought-created world is a lot like, it's just like a movie. It's like whatever's going on out there really cannot dictate what's going on inside. But we postpone our dreams. We postpone our ideas. We postpone making commitments. We postpone making agreeing to stuff deciding on stuff because we're waiting for the outside world to change in some way. And not possible. It's not possible. And I'm a life coach and a trainer of life coaches, and I have a lot of clients that come in with this outside-in perspective. Dermot, I really want to leave my job and create my own business. But, the job won't let me leave, or they're going to make it really hard for me to leave. And I don't know if I could create a new business anyway. I mean, who am I to say that? Who am I to create a new business for myself? So, when we think about it in that way, when we think about it in that way, we're always living from an outside-in experience. That what is going on in the world will dictate our decisions, our dreams. Let me share a little quote with you from John Donahue, Irish poet. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. John O'Donohue is pointing exactly to what we're talking about, that the courage that we're looking for, the confidence that we're looking for, no amount of person, place, or thing can give that to you. It's got to come from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. Now, what's interesting about our thoughts, they come and they go, they come and they go. And when people get stressed, they start to freak out, right? They have a thought, they start thinking. Thinking becomes a belief, negative or positive. And then that, if it's a negative belief, thinking, it turns into stress. It turns into an emotion, right? Thought creates an emotion. We live in the feeling of our thinking. We live in a thought-created universe. I was thinking of the old acronym yesterday, when I was in a program, FEAR, it was called False Evidence Appearing Real, the acronym for FEAR. And yesterday while I was out walking, I thought, it's actually false emotion appearing real, because we have a thought, and that thought creates the emotion. That emotion creates a feeling. That feeling is an experience. That's part of our reality. And then we act upon it. And if it's a negative thought, that creates a negative emotion, and we call that stress. But if we're willing to just settle down a little bit, we can start to notice that thoughts just come and go, come and go, come and go. And we can start to realize that if thought is really the nature of the human experience, if thought is what creates everything in the human experience, then we don't have to resist our thoughts. We don't have to believe, well, Dermot, I have this belief, that says that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not skillful enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not confident enough, I'm not nice enough, I'm not beautiful enough. We have these beliefs. All they are is just a thought that you kept thinking, and then you made it a belief. You made it a truth about yourself. Now, the good news is, for years, we're going to go for a break in a second here, but for years went through processing my emotions, processing my grief, processing my beliefs. And now what I'm starting to realize is that if they're just thoughts, those beliefs were just created by thoughts. If I go back in there and I try to process all of those thoughts, if I go in there and I have to try and process all of those beliefs, it's kind of endless. Now, I'm not saying there's not a place for therapy. I went to therapy for a year. It's wonderful. I'm not saying that there's not a place for psychotherapy or therapeutic modalities or practices. I'm just saying that at some point, at least for me, I'm starting to realize that where they fall short of the mark is that it's kind of like an endless loop. Because if we live in a thought-created universe, which I believe we do, then all of these beliefs that we've created through thought, through our thinking, they're just made up. And do we really need to go in and process them all? I haven't fully decided for myself. I'll be honest with you, dear listeners. I haven't fully decided. But, more to be revealed there. All right, when we come back, I'm going to share a little story as I was walking out yesterday, and a story of the crows in the trees. And then we're going to move on to our second part of our show. What is blocking you from creating an amazing life? Most of the day. All right. God bless the Irish. I reckon life, we're talking about life today. Life to me is like a cup of tea. It's all in how you make it. All right, let me share a little story. I was out yesterday walking, as I do from time to time, and I decided to take a little break about 20 minutes into the walk. I was like, I've had enough of this. I'm going to sit down. And I sat down on the trail, and I was looking at this big, huge old oak tree, and I was just staring at it, looking at it, appreciating it. And it was about 6 o'clock in the evening, so all the crows started to fly over to land in this tree. And I started watching this anyway. And there was a few, 2 or 3, and then 5 or 6. Then at one point, there must have been about 30 or 40 crows all coming over. And it looked like a huge atomic bomb had just dropped on the tree. There was all these crows just flying everywhere around the tree. And then 2 minutes later, it was silent. And all the crows had landed on the tree, and you couldn't even see them, and it looked like the tree had just took an exhale and totally relaxed. There was no chaos of all these birds flying around it. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. That to me is a perfect metaphor for life. And this idea that thoughts come and go, that we live in a thought-created universe, that everything in the world is created by thought. Just look around your house. Everything in that house at some point was a thought. Everything, your TV, your car, heck, even your wife was a thought, right? Your dad at some point during the night was like, I got a thought here. Let's try something on here. Hey, honey, are you awake? 9 months later, there you appeared. Just a thought. Or a twinkle in your dad's eye. Who knows? One or the other. I think the thought came first and then the twinkle. Or maybe it was the twinkle. I don't know. It was one of those things. Maybe the thought and the twinkle came together. If you're a parent, you decide. So everything that is created is a thought. So now I was watching these crows, and there was a loud bang. I don't know, it was like a car or something went past. And the tree went from being very still to about 200 crows flying around it. It was like a crow war. It was crazy. It was crazy. And for about 2 minutes, they all flew around. They were fluttering and shuddering and stuttering and crying and laughing and telling jokes and screaming. And then it all settled again. Now, I was there for about 10 minutes. This happened 3 times. And it's a perfect metaphor, example for what goes on in our lives. We're sitting at home, relaxing. Our mind is at rest. Because here's the thing. Your mind has a default setting. Did you know that? Yeah. It's like your computer. When all else fails, just default back to the main settings. We all have a main setting in our head. in our bodies, in our thought system. And that setting is relaxed. That setting is peaceful. Believe it or believe it not. And when something happens, the president does something, or something happens, the wife does something, the husband, the kids do something, you get fired from a job, those crows fly out of that really beautiful, clear, patient, peaceful tree, and they fly around. And what we do is then we look up and we go, there, that's the problem. It's those damn crows. They're the problem. They're the ones that are disturbing my peace. Or whatever the experience might be. But see, those crows will always re-land in that tree and relax. But what we do with our thought is we start thinking about the crows. And we keep those crows flying around that tree for hours, for days, for weeks, for months. And then we blame the crows. But it's our energy, it's our focus on the crows that has kept them flying around. When we can find a place or a space to just let go and relax, the crows automatically land, calm themselves down, and when we look at the tree, it looks like there's no crows there whatsoever. But those thoughts are always there. Those crows are always there. And they're going to react. They're going to respond to loud noises, to things that we can't control, to presidents doing all sorts of crazy things on national television. But if we can realize that those crows are simply our thoughts, and that we don't have to engage with our thoughts, then we start to live from an inside-out perspective. Now, what is an inside-out perspective? An inside-out perspective is that regardless of what's going on outside, I can be still inside. Viktor Frankl is a great example of that. Right? Martin Luther King. There's people from history. Nelson Mandela was in prison for 30 years, and he came out and he said, hey, let's work together. That's an inside-out perspective. When we start to live our lives from an inside-out, then we're not at the mercy of the world. We're not at the mercy of what the president does, or what the Congress does, or what the government does, or what IRS does, or what the crazy people around blah, blah, blah do around the world. Now, it doesn't mean that those things won't impact us or affect us. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that those things will impact us or affect us, just not even close to what they would if we had an outside-in perspective. If we're like, okay, they're the problem. Whereas an inside perspective says, okay, those people are doing that stuff. That's all factual. That's all part of life. We're humans. We're having a human experience. We're going to experience pain. We're going to experience suffering. That is all part of it. I'm not saying that that's not out there. It is. I went through my own suffering and probably will till the day I die and come back again. But when we start to see that life is created from the inside out, that our thoughts create, then we can have a different relationship to what's going on in the outside world. And that's the key. That's what I want you guys to hear today. When we realize that it's all thought, then we can have a different experience, a different connection, a different association to what's happening in the outside world. We don't have to get thrown around so much. We don't have to get knocked around so much. We don't have to stress out so much about everything that we cannot control. Because you can't control the outside world. Did you notice that? There's nothing you can do to control the outside world. Absolutely nothing. I'll share a little quote for you from James Joyce. James Joyce said that, I am tomorrow or some future day what I establish today. I am today what I established yesterday or some previous day. James Joyce. And what I think our beautiful Irish poet is alluding to is that we today, we can only live for today. We can't live for tomorrow. Our thoughts, by the way, is what lives in tomorrow. Our thoughts or our thinking is what lives in tomorrow. Our thinking is what has us go to the past. And if we just look at I am tomorrow or some future day, what I established today, if I can live in just today, if I can realize that I live in the feeling of my thoughts, that I live in the creation of my thoughts, that I live in the life of my thoughts, that I live in the inside world of my thoughts, the outside world, then I can establish in myself peace, joy, love today, regardless of what's going on yesterday, what's going to happen tomorrow when the president goes and blah, 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 blah. I can establish today in myself a peaceful place, a place of strength, a place of confidence, a place of peace. Now, I've already started talking about what blocks us from creating an amazing life. And it's these beliefs that I can't have this because. I can't do this because. If only but for my blah, 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 I could do that. If it weren't for my family, I could do that. If it weren't for my boss, I could do that. But see, what blocks us from creating an amazing life is not the outside circumstances. Oh, well, the economy's bad, Dermot. I can't. I've just started a business and it's really hard for me to make money because the economy's so bad. Do you know how many billions of dollars are created and made when the economy is at its worst? Billions of dollars. But see, we buy into this thing, no, it's the economy, Dermot. That's why my business is not doing well. No, your business is not doing well because you've allowed your thinking, you've allowed the world to dictate what you're going to think about your business. You've allowed the world to direct your thinking in a way that's impacting your business in a negative way. You've allowed the world to say, my business is going to fail because of what's going on in the world. Now, we're all humans. I do this all the time. Well, in fact, I do it a lot less now that I'm starting to understand this inside-out perspective. I do it a lot less. But what blocks us from creating an amazing life is not the president, is not all the countries that have nuclear bombs. Oh, did I just do a President Bush slip? Did I say nuclear? I mean nuclear. Bombs. But it's our thinking of how that's impacting us that creates the blocks, that creates these negative beliefs. I can't have that because of blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blanks. So what blocks us from creating an amazing life is not what's going on in the outside world. We tell ourselves that it is. And sometimes there's a lot of horrific things going on in the world. Don't get me wrong. I get that. But a lot of the times we just use them as an excuse to stop us from creating an amazing life. So how do we create an amazing life? First, by realizing that what we're looking for, peace, love, joy, confidence, that's already in us. Okay? That's why when you look at a baby, you feel love. It's not the baby. The baby's not giving you love. The baby's not zapping you with his eyes. Zzz, love, love. The baby is a mirror, a reflection of something that's already in you. And the baby reflects that back to you. In the same way that when you're wanting to create a great life and you look at what somebody's doing and you say, well, the reason I can't have a good life is because of what they're doing. You're simply using them as a mirror to reflect back to you all the excuses, all the thoughts, all the beliefs that say you cannot do this. But when you can recognize, here it is, in creating an amazing life, if you can recognize that it's just thought, thoughts come and go like the wind. Thoughts come and go like the clouds. But you're not going to go up there and start fighting with the clouds, are you? Even though you look at the clouds, I mean, they look pretty solid, but they're not. You know they're not. You look at an iceberg, you think, gosh, that's pretty solid. Not really. Heat it up for a day, it'll turn into water. Your thoughts are the exact same way. They're just thoughts. They come and they go. We live in a thought-created universe. Everything is thought. So that means that everything was created by thought. And when we can dial in to start to look in that direction, then we can realize, hey, you know, the pressure's off. I don't have to stress about this thought and that thought, and I don't have to get caught up in my thinking about, oh gosh, I start obsessing about blah, 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 blah. I was in a program for 10 years. And I was in that program because the only thing that was going on was that I had allowed myself, I had chosen to just allow my thinking to go off the rails. That's what stress is. It's your thinking gone south. Stress is your thoughts, your thinking gone barmy. Right? Thinking, thoughts, stress. That's your thoughts in overdrive. It's like when you get in your car and you put one foot on the gas pedal, one foot on the brake, and you press both of them hard. And you're going nowhere fast. Life moves at its own pace. And the reason we get stressed is because our brain, our thinking, is moving faster than our life is. Do you ever notice that? When you're in traffic? Hey, get it going, get it moving, move. Oh, and you're in traffic and you're sitting still. Why are you annoyed? Because life is moving way too slow and your thinking is moving way too fast. But in the times, isn't it interesting, the times that we're peaceful, that we're relaxed, are the times when our thoughts are moving in tandem with our life. Isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? So what blocks us from creating an amazing life is not the outside circumstances. It's our thoughts about the outside circumstances. And if life is moving really fast, or if our thoughts are moving really fast, and life is not, then we'll be jumping from place to place to place to place to place to place to place. Let me give you an example of this through the neighbor's sheep. There's 5 of them, right? There's 3 girls and 2 guys, Bob and Barry, and then there's Mary, Margaret, and Moira. I know, it's probably not their real names, but I like the names. I like them. And I pulled up some weeds yesterday from the garden. I like to feed them and just watch them. And I threw them over the fence. And an interesting thing happened. I learned a lot from watching these sheep. The 3 ladies, they all went to one pile of the leaves. I put up like 5 piles, 6 piles. And they all took their own pile and they stayed there. And they started chomping down on the leaves, and I could tell they were pretty happy about it, And, I mean, how do you tell a sheep is happy? But, the ladies looked happy. I know when a lady looks happy, they looked happy. And the guys, however, they went to one pile, and then they went to the other pile, and then he went to the other pile, and he ate a little bit from that, and then he pushed the girls out of the way and went into their pile, and then pushed the other guy out of the way and went to his pile. And he spent the whole 20 minutes running around from pile to pile to pile to pile. And he didn't get to eat as much as the 3 girls did because they were just on one pile. And not only that, Bob, who's the big sheep, it's always the big ones, isn't it? And I could tell he wasn't happy. Because while they were chomping down, relaxed, eating their leaves and weeds, he was running around from pile to pile to pile to pile to pile. In case he'd missed something. The grass is greener on the other side. The leaves are bigger on the other side of the pile. I don't know, something like that. And what it proved to me was a very simple thing. That if you want to create an amazing life, you've got to be able to slow down to life. You've got to be able to slow down to just chomp down on one pile. Right? Work done well today is work done well for a life. Some Irish guy said that, some Celtic coach guy. And it's true. Bob was a great example of that. So when we want to create an amazing life, pick something that you want to do. Pick something that you want to move in that direction. You don't have to do it perfectly. Just pick an idea, put yourself out there, see what happens. Most people are, I'm so afraid, Dermot. What might happen? That's your thoughts. You're thinking again. Stop thinking, start doing. And if you want to know more about that, listen to last week's show. It was all about stop thinking, start doing. Pick a direction you want to go. People say to me all the time in coaching, Dermot, and we're going to go for a break here in a minute, top of the hour. Dermot, I want to do something new with my life. Something, I want a creative, but I don't know what to do. And I think, well, what's one thing that you'd like to do? Okay, well, point yourself in that direction, start doing it. Well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, if it doesn't work out, try something else. It's like we have this thing. I don't know where the hell we got it. But we have really high standards and really high expectations of those standards. And what I tell my clients is, hey, having high standards, showing up fully, being on time, doing your best, they're high standards. Nothing wrong with that. Totally up for that. But when you expect yourself to get on a bicycle for the first time and ride it like a pro, expectations way too high. When you expect yourself to know what it is you want to do with your life by trying something once, expectations too high. When you know by going out there and trying some new hobby once, oh, I don't like it. Way too high expectations. Lower them, lower them. Put this in your books. Show up for life and see what shows up in your life. Show up for your life and see what shows up. And then whatever shows up, show up for that. But we as a society, we've gotten to our expectations on what we do are off the charts. I train coaches, and after like 4 or 5 classes, they're got a big judgment hammer. They're whacking themselves in the head. Why is it I'm not a great coach? Because you've only done 4 classes. Lower the expectations, keep the standards high. Now we're talking about this outside-in perspective. Right? We create our world from the outside in. From the inside out, excuse me. Most of us from the outside in. Hey, whatever's going on in the world, that dictates how I feel. That dictates how I move in the world. That dictates how I think in the world. That dictates how I act in the world. And the very opposite is true. It's not about what's going on outside. It's about what's going on inside. Into each life, some rain must fall. H.W. Longfellow. Into each life, some rain must fall. Now, when I hear that quote, I hear, hey, pain is inevitable. Suffering, optional. What I hear also in that is that, hey, we're all having a human experience. We're all going to have our ups and our downs. But if we live in a thought-created universe, which I believe we do, thoughts are coming and going all day long. And when we start to resist these thoughts, you've heard it, what you resist persists. I heard it for years. Thought it was, it's very nice, but now I really get it. When you have thoughts are coming in your head, and like my thoughts, if you connect or engage with a thought and you start thinking about it, great, wonderful, right? This universe is thought created, which means you sit down, point yourself in a direction that you want to look at. Every Friday morning, I sit down and I write all my jokes for the show. And I just point myself in the direction that I want to go. And then I say, hey, universe, send me some good jokes. I trust that you'll be able to send me some good jokes since you've created a billion, trillion, million, gazillion galaxies and planets and stars and moons and suns and species of plants and species of animals and species of humans and aliens and extraterrestrials. Do you think you could give me a few jokes for the show? I trust that that's going to happen. But where we get caught up in trying to create an amazing life, and then where it blocks us, is we start to resist. We take a thought, oh, I'm no good. And then we play with that thought. Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm no good. Yeah, do you remember that stupid thing I did yesterday? Oh, and then last week, do you remember what I said to that girl? Oh, my God, I'm so stupid. Oh, God, do you remember what I did when I was 20 years of age? Oh, my God, I was so stupid, drinking and doing drugs and all sorts of crazy crap. And if we can back up for a moment and just notice that, hey, they're just thoughts. But when we resist those thoughts, they persist, don't they? In fact, what you resist turns into thinking. That's a nice way to think about it. What you resist turns into thinking. Now, there's nothing wrong with thinking if it's moving you in the direction that you want to go. But if your thinking's moving you in a direction that you don't want to go, then all you got to do is just, hey, stop thinking. Oh, well, how do I do that, Dermot? It's really simple. How do you kick a football? You just take your foot and you kick the football. If you're dangling at the end of the rope and you want to let go, how do you let go? You just let go. So in the same way with your thinking, just point yourself in a different direction. If you're on your way to Los Angeles and you realize that, hey, Los Angeles is not where I wanted to go, what do? Do you keep on thinking while you're driving to Los Angeles, God, I really shouldn't, I really should, what should I do here? Should I, how am I going to turn this around? And you keep driving to Los Angeles. All you have to do is just stop the car, turn it around, and head in a different direction. Oh, I think I'll head to Santa Rosa. Okay. But when you resist your thinking, when you push against it, as the law of attraction says, that which is likened onto it attracts. In other words, when you push on something, you're going to pull that to attract it to you. In the same way that you say, hey, the president's a problem and everything that he's doing is the problems, is all the problems that I have in my life. If only he was a good president, then I would feel better. Right? If only he wasn't a blah, 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 I would feel better. No, not true. Not true. So what we resist persists. When you start taking your thoughts and start thinking about them and then using them to beat yourself up, they're never going to go that way. So if you just turn yourself around and start going in the direction that you want to go. It's very simple. You just point yourself in the direction that you want to go. Raise your standards, lower your expectations. Pain, suffering, all of that stuff is going to happen in life, but we don't have to get so caught up in it that we lose our perspective, that we lose our direction on whatever it is we want to create in our lives. Look, everyone, into each life some rain must fall. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. All those things are going to happen. We're going to have good presidents, bad presidents, some presidents that we like, some we don't like. We're going to have challenges with our family. We're going to have love and peace with our family, all of those things. We're going to have challenging times with our boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands and wives, and we're going to have beautiful times. All those things are part of the human experience. I'm not saying none of that has to go away. But if we can understand that it's thought that's creating those, if we can understand that it's thought that is connecting us to those, right? We don't experience really we don't experience money. We experience our thinking about money. We hold the money up and we start thinking about it. No, money doesn't have any type of value except the value that we give it. We don't experience our jobs per se. We experience how we think about our jobs. I like my job, therefore you have a good experience. I hate my job, therefore you don't have a good experience. I love my wife, you have a great experience. I don't like my wife, you don't have a great experience. It's all thought. And when we can just realize or accept that, hey, everything that comes my way is all part of the human experience. And if I want to start creating an amazing life, all I've got to do is ask myself some very simple questions. What is it I want to do? Now, you don't have to know for definite. What do I want to do? What's one area of my life that I want to improve? Okay. And why would that be important for me to improve that area of my life? And what's one small thing that I can do to start to improve the health in my life, the wealth in my life, the financial increase in my life, my relationship in my life, my career, my job, whatever it might be? What do I want? Why is that important? What am I going to get from that if I start improving that area of my life? And raise your standards. Commit to doing it. But lower your expectations. Say, I'm going to try it a few times. I tell people in coaching, look, you're not allowed to have an opinion about your coaching abilities until you've coached at least 20 people. And then you can have an idea. Then you can have an opinion. But not until then. And we can use that same thing in our lives. So, what can Donald Trump teach you about creating an amazing life? He can teach you this. That no matter what he does or says, or anyone else like him that you know of, people, places, or things, they don't have to dictate your quality of life. They don't have to dictate who you are as a person. They don't have to dictate your experience of living. What simply dictates your quality of life and your experience of life is your thoughts. Allow them to come and go. And if they're negative, play with them if you want, and then let them go, and then start to put your attention beautifully like a child. If a child falls down, you don't beat the child and say, get back up. No, you lovingly take the child up and you point them in a direction that they want to go. You help them back up. And the same love and compassion we need to be able to give to ourselves. We need to be able to start to take our lives and just point it in a direction that we want to go. Take our lives and start to just point it in a direction that we think, hey, this might be a good direction. I'm going to try and go this way and see what happens. I'm going to show up for life and see what shows up. I'm going to put myself out there and just try some stuff. And I'm not going to have all these results and closed opinions about how it should look and how it will look. I'm just going to put myself out there and see what happens. And I can tell you from my own experience, magic happens. Magic happens. We're meant to live a beautiful, magical life. It's going to have pain and suffering and challenges and problems and all of that stuff. It's like the old quote, God promised us a safe landing but not a smooth sailing. As the great Yogananda says, a victorious life is not a smooth life. It has its ups and downs. Anyone that's ever done anything in this world will tell you it has its ups and downs. Be okay with it. Don't spend all your time calling your friends, telling them about how bad your life is. Realize that, hey, okay, that happened. Move on. Get on with living. In a few weeks' time, I'm going to have Steve Chandler come on the show. And the topic is going to be cut the crap and live your life. And if you don't know who Steve Chandler is, you can go to Steve Chandler, CHANDLER.com. You can check out his new book. And he's just an incredible man. He's going to be coming on the show. So I'll let you know as soon as I get the dates from Steve. That's going to be a show not to be missed. All right, my dear friends, you've been listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Every Friday from 1 to 3 on KOWS.FM. F for Frank and M for Matilda. Have a great week. Think big. Have fun. Stay curious. I'm the Celtic Coach. Cheers, everyone.